guys, it's Jake. I'm the sole owner and operator of Magnolia Services. I'm a residential HVAC contractor based out of Johnson City, Tennessee. I'm going to take you out on one today to do a maintenance tune-up on an Amana split system heat pump. I can't remember how old this system is. I believe it's 5 or 6 years old, something like that. It wasn't registered. I actually had to go and clear the drain. I guess it was back this past summer. I'm not really sure. I don't remember. I don't have my records in front of me right here, but the unit, it's a negative pressure system because it's a heat pump and it's drawing air up through the coil. So the fan sits on top of the coil, upflow position in a crawl space like slash basement. It's not really a crawl space. It's like a old school house that was done by flippers. And has a condensate pump there, and there is no P-trap. The drain just comes kind of out and down into the condensate pump, and whoever had installed this this unit stuffed the drain line to touch the bottom of the pump, and over the years the drain line clogged full of zooglia and all that slime and scum, and ended up overflowing his drain pan. They did put an emergency pan on this thing with the float switch, and the customer called me saying that he thought the condensate pump had failed. I tested the pump, it worked, and saw all the water in the drain in the pan when I opened it up, and the emergency drain pan was full of water. So the float switch was taking this thing out. So I told him that we really should put a P-trap on this thing. He didn't want to do it, even though it's only, you know, a few dollars. It's not a lot of money. I think those traps cost like $5, and then plus a little time. He just said that he didn't want to mess with it. So what I did was I shortened the drain pipe a little bit so that when the condensate pump pumped the water all the way down, it was still below the water line. So that acts as a P-trap for that unit so that the pan doesn't hold water. It's not the right way to do it. It's not allowed where this system was installed. So, you know, at least this way it shouldn't clog back up as easily as it did before, where the pipe was touching the bottom of the pump, and then all that scum and stuff prevents water from draining out. I also put a slight angle cut on the bottom of it, and then I used just a clear, one of those clear repair couplings on the drain line so that I could pull it off in the future if needed. So that's what's going on with this one. We're just going to go over and do a tune-up maintenance on it. Not sure if I'll find anything, but I figure I'd take you along for the ride. Let's get after it. Alright, so here's the outdoor unit. It's from 2020. It doesn't look so bad. I mean, it's definitely got some dirt in it. It's got a piston inside. You can see it's got some dirt in it. You can still see through it in most places, but it's definitely dirt in there. It's piling up. Definitely piling up. The old rattle top here. Things are notorious for that. So this is what my temperature split's looking like. 67 is his set point. That's what he prefers. He was keeping it at 65. I told him, man, you got to raise that up. I told him to raise it up to 70, but he said it's just too warm in there. So you can see we got a return air dry bulb of 64.5. We're getting a 17.1 degree temperature split. Based on these conditions, you can see we're not getting much superheat here, but right now we have a target superheat of 5.6, 5.7 degrees based on outdoor dry bulb, indoor return dry bulb, and the indoor wet bulb. So technically our charge is good, even though we don't have a lot of superheat. Just barely getting the threshold. I told him that running it this cold would definitely shorten the lifespan of this system. So he just doesn't care. He wants to have it cold in there. Running about 78.4 up to about 79 degrees on that. And our dry bulb for the condenser, we're putting out 86.5 out the top. So yeah, I think that once we clean it, this liquid line temperature will come down a little bit, 85.9. It's definitely higher than the outdoor temperature. The higher that gets, you know, that's can kind of be a little bit of an indication that the condenser is a little dirty. We'll be sure to check it at the end, but I'm going to go ahead and start the maintenance on this thing. I don't like that this condensate tube here is not covered. What I like to do is I like to put them in a 5/8 inch flexible black conduit that's UV resistant, and then I either wrap it with this UV resistant line set tape, or I'll use Christie's 10 or 20 mil black UV resistant tape over the flexible conduit. I'll mention that to him just to let him know that, you know, over time the sun will degrade this thing. This unit actually years ago had a low voltage short. I had to run new thermostat wire. Had a where they had put metal clamps on it. The line had rubbed and shorted the ground on the clamp. So it was in multiple spots. I'm guessing just by the way they ran the line set and stuff. So he opted to go ahead and put in a brand new thermostat wire. So here you can see I used 3/8 inch flexible black conduit to wrap the thermostat wire as it exits the house, and then I wrapped it with UV resistant line set tape to further protect it. So I'm going to go ahead and get cleaning on this thing. I did amp draws on the compressor. Let's see here, in the fan motor. I got photos of it. I'll give you those numbers here. The compressor's drawing 6.2 amps, and the condenser fan motor 0.5 amps. So that's what we got right now. Got to do all my electrical checks. I'll pull this disconnect, we'll lube the pull out, and then make sure the fuses are the correct size for this unit. I'm going to check the capacitor on this. This uses that CoreSense diagnostics. This is technically a cooling mode maintenance, but I just checked that defrost termination, and you can see that's on 60 minutes, which is perfectly fine. See this a lot in these Goodman boards and Amana boards, that heat soak on those resistors. Look how bad that board's getting scorched there. I'm not sure what's going on there. They love putting out a lot of heat right there. I have seen these boards fail, but you know, even though you're showing that heat soak there, it doesn't mean the board is going to fail. It can last for years like that, but seems to be a common issue on these things. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and satisfy this thermostat and start cleaning this thing up. Alright, I gave this thing an initial wipe down here. Looks like I got to get a little more out of it. You can see still some like grass seed and stuff in here. A couple little cobwebs still in there. Got one big one that was in here behind the board. I'm going to go ahead and check this dual run cap. It's a 35.5/440. We're going to check the contactor coil. This is a single pole contactor, so I'd expect it to be 15 ohms. As low as 10 or up to 20. Anything under 10 or over 20, I would suggest replacement. The contacts on this actually look really good. Not real bad at all. You can see down in there. I'm also going to check the tightness on my contactor, and then I'm going to check the ground, and then I'm going to go inside to the breaker panel. I've already checked these fuses and lubed the disconnect here, but I'll pop this thing open and make sure that the line and load wires in here are tight. This has a 30 amp time delay fuses on this, and the max overcurrent on this is 30 amps. So that's okay. I'll be sure to check the inside as well. Not sure if I mentioned this, but the defrost time is set to 60, which is perfectly fine here. Doesn't need to be at 30. So I'm going to go ahead and get checking all this, test the tightness, check the coil, check the capacitor, and I already lubed the disconnect. I'm not sure I can get this thing off with one hand here. Let me try. I get two hands, I'm holding it with my legs. I got it in the off position, of course. I already tested voltage and lubed that thing up. So, all right, let's get along. Okay, so I went ahead and checked the contactor coil. It was doing 18.7 ohms, so that's perfectly okay. Check the dual run cap. It's actually reading right on the threshold. It's a 35.5 plus or minus 6%, and it's reading 33 microfarads on the compressor side and dead on the money 5 on the fan side. So if you do 35 and you multiply that by 0.94, which gives you your 6%, we're right on the cusp. So it's 32.9 and it's at 33 microfarads. So I'm going to let the customer know this and just see if he wants me to replace it. If not, we'll let it ride. It's kind of right on that borderline of being just almost low. You know, it's 0.1 microfarads. You have to remember there might be some slop in my meter too. Check the tightness on my contactor and my ground. Those were nice and tight, no movement whatsoever. I flipped the breaker off at the panel inside, popped this open, and tested tightness on these. Everything was nice and tight. Whoever installed this really put the He-Man on it, so that's good. Loose connections are burn connections, so you definitely don't want them to be loose. Something I do like to mention, whenever I pull these wires off, I like to go ahead and just make sure those stake-ons are tight. Take a little needle nose and pinch them. That way they are tight and not going to burn off, you know, in the future, or less likely to. Okay, I let the customer know about the capacitor being 0.1 away from the threshold. Told him that it could last years like that, but he said he wanted to go ahead and replace it. Went ahead and let everybody know it's a USA made Mars 35.5. The original was 440 volt, and the replacement date. Okay, so I will have to take this wire off, and I think the purple, yeah, the purple and this black, to pop the top off of this thing so that I can clean the sides. So I'll go ahead and make sure those are nice and tight when I put them back on. Okay, so I'll have to take those off when I pop the top, which is coming up next. But I did want to show that I went ahead and replaced the dual run capacitor. He didn't want to fool around with it dying on him. So hopefully this one will last for him. I've had one failure on these USA Mars capacitors, and the one that did fail had a tiny little dent in it when I put it in. I didn't think anything of it. It was just small. It came in the box that way, and about a year and a half after I put it in, it died. So I had to put another one in for the customer. Okay, so before I take the top off of here and the sides, I went ahead and just took this part off, and I found that this pressure switch here, that's the low pressure switch, was actually rubbing here. So I pulled that up and taped this wire just to help protect it. I also found down in the bottom the crankcase heater, that black wire down there, it was rubbing on the suction line. So I went ahead and tightened the zip tie there, and then I also put a zip tie here, and then tighten that up on the zip tie to keep that off that pipe down there. And then I saw a few of these distributor tubes that were rubbing in multiple places, so I'm just trying to prevent anything from rubbing and causing a hole, you know, in the future. So I went ahead and got some of this debris out of the bottom. Looks like I still need to get a little more. I like to leave the side on these because these are pretty tall units, and if you take the sides and this top off, you end up crunching down the coil while you're trying to lean in here and grab all this stuff out of here. So I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of this debris out of here. I'll put some wax on the cover for the compressor, on the accumulator, put a little on the top of the dryer, or all around the dryer actually, and the discharge muffler, just to help prevent them from rusting in the future. Get the rest of this debris, and then I'm going to strip the top off and the sides, and I'll go ahead and spray from the inside to outside with the with a water hose, no chemical. All right, so that's kind of my strategy when I'm doing these. That's what I prefer to do. Check for any wire rubs, check for any copper tubes that might be rubbing. Actually, it looks like that one down there, it's a little close. No, it's got gap. Okay. So I just want to make sure that I don't have anything rubbing in here that will be a potential leak in the future, or wire rub that will, you know, end up causing a low voltage or high voltage short. Okay, so I got the sides back on. I went ahead and put this top on. The Amana isn't as bad as the Goodman as far as putting it together, but I do notice where the Amana has that separate top, the ones that do, if you take that top off, like I said, when you're going down inside cleaning up the debris and all that stuff, it protects the coil from getting bent up, but it also makes it easier to kind of squeeze back together to you know, put back together. I went ahead and wiped down the whips wax. I'm using Turtle Wax spray wax with a microfiber rag. Did the disconnect, all this thing's completely beat, but I went ahead and got the whips as well with wax, both of them. Got all the way around the unit, went ahead and sprayed off all the debris out of the pad here. So when I have the panels off, what I like to do is hit them with a little bit of that organic all-purpose cleaner, scrub them with my long-handled scrub brush, that one right there, and then you know, when I put them back on, You know, I like to wax them. Sometimes I wax them off, it just depends. I don't want the wax getting in the coil, you know, but that's what it looks like. Top's all waxed up. Here's the inside compressor's waxed, accumulator, filter dryer, and the discharge muffler. Got all the debris out. Actually, looks like I got a little stick that fell right there, so I'm gonna have to grab that real quick. But I'm gonna go ahead and give the very bottom a wax. Now that I got all this stuff waxed, just put some wax on the bottom here, give it a good rub with the microfiber, and grab that stick out right there. And then I'll put the fan back on the top. I like to wax the rings as well, the motor, and also clean the underside of the fan blades as well. And then the little conduit that protects the condenser fan motor wires, I like to wax that as well because they take a beating out in the sun. So the one thing I really like about the Amana model versus the Goodman is right here you can just lift this top up when you're putting the purple, brown, and black back in. I got them wired back up. Brown goes to fan on the DRC. Black goes to DF2 on the board, and then the purple goes to common on the DRC. But there's a zip tie in here right there at the top. I'm not sure if you can see that on camera, but it is like so hard to get Goodman tops back on and to slide those wires and route them so that they don't rub. I mean, it is a bear. You're constantly just getting scraped by the coil on your arms, and you got all the weight of the top on you messing with you. So having this separate top here really makes it a lot easier to slide those wires back into place and to make sure they're secured in a zip tie. Got some, I got to wax this here. Haven't waxed this yet. Got the underside, got the fan blades on the top, and I got the motor with some wax. This is all worn out because it's exposed to the sun. That side you can tell looks a little brighter. So I'll go ahead and wax this here at the top, and then put this door back on. Looks like that rain they're calling for might be heading in on me a little sooner than expected. Wasn't supposed to get here till 2, but I could feel the temperature starting to drop, and that cloud looks pretty nasty, so I'm gonna have to hustle. I'm gonna get inside and get the circuit checked, make sure we have the correct overcurrent protection for the heat kit we have. We're gonna flush the drain. We're gonna open up the door to the coil, make sure we pour cleaner down the pan as well as clean water. Take the condensate pump apart, clean that, make sure that it's nice and clean, doesn't have any zoogly or scum in it. And we'll check the fan speed, the blower speed, to make sure that it's operating and you know what speed it's in. It should, I would think, be in high speed. I forgot to mention this return here is it's a 2.5 ton heat pump, but the return is only 16 by 30, so technically it's a little small for a 2.5 ton. Should be 500 square inches minimum of filter grill, and we only have 480, so that's another thing that would make your superheat a little lower, as well as your suction line temperature coming back when you don't have enough return or enough return going to the system. The grill can be a little small as long as the ductwork going to it, but it'll just be louder. You know, you don't want the restrictions on your return. If anything, you want the restriction on your supply side. All right, let's go ahead and get moving. Okay, so here's the indoor unit. It does have a condensate pump with a float switch as well as an aqua guard on the emergency pan. This is the repair coupling I put in here last time. This thing sweats a lot down here. Was doing a lot worse. This up here wasn't insulated. You can still see it's getting some sweat on it. So he had insulated it with Reflectix. But it's very humid down here. He gets a lot of water penetration coming in. He really needs to encapsulate this and control the humidity. I went ahead and killed the breaker for what I think is the indoor unit. It's not labeled, so I'm going to make sure that it is it's labeled. I went ahead and just marked this real quick with a piece of black tape. It's a white wire. This is a 240 volt unit, so this should be marked to fully with black tape. I just put it on there, and then it looks like this is a 10 kW heat kit, and we are using high speed on the blower board there. So I gotta wipe all this down, get all this debris out of here. We're gonna snake that drain with my long little panduit strap, pop open the condensate pump. We'll clean that out. I'm going to do a gallon of cleaner, foaming drain cleaner, 2 gallons of clean water, and then make sure that drain is nice and flushed. I'll wipe the entire unit down, front, back, and sides, and that's pretty much it. It looks like the wheel is in really good shape. They're really on top of the filters here. You can see it's very good in there. Hardly any dust on the wheel at all. So that's always good to see. Look at that. Yeah, that's nice. Alright, so I want to make sure I test voltage up here to make sure that this 60 over here is the breaker. And then if it is, I'll mark it on the panel. It's not marked right now. So I want to make sure that it's marked for anybody who comes behind me, you know. But I'm going to suggest to him to go ahead and put another layer of Reflectix on here. You can see it's still getting some sweat. It was just pouring sweat before. I actually had this on my van and I just gave him some, and then he ordered the hard cast online. Something else I forgot to mention, if you've seen my other maintenance videos, you know I do this, but outside on the outdoor unit, always make sure you drop your hose down into the bottom of the unit and spray underneath the accumulator and the compressor. You don't want grass and organic material sitting under the accumulator and sitting under the compressor. As that organic material sits there, it's going to get wet and then it's going to get hot. And as it starts getting hot, that steam and it's going to come off that organic material as it's evaporating off, and it's going to rust out a hole in your accumulator into the bottom of your unit, or God forbid the bottom of the compressor or something. Normally it'll just rust the feed on the compressor and things like that, but it's really simple to do. Just while you got the top open, make sure you put your hose on jet and or full, spray under that accumulator. Make sure you get all that grass and organic material out of it, and then get all that stuff out from underneath the compressor as well. So I always like to do this when I'm doing maintenances, especially on a first time maintenance, and then if someone does it every year or twice a year or something like that, I'll check it at least every year, every other year. But since I had power killed to this, coming in I tested voltage. I've actually restored power now. That ground wire was loose. I got 3 turns on it. I got a full turn on that one, the white, where the white's at, that I marked with a piece of tape. And I got about 3/4 of a turn on that one, and I wasn't really, you know, trying to crank on it. They just were loose. So the outdoor disconnect tested okay. When I opened that up, everything was tight in there, but that was definitely loose. I went ahead and confirmed that I do have this is my 60 for the indoor, this is my 30 for the outdoor. This one was marked, but it said here that HVAC furnace igniter pilot, and that's not correct. It can't be a single pole. So I tested down here between 17 and 19, and I labeled it indoor HVAC. So that is correct now. So now in the future, if I'm out here, I know what breaker to kill if I need to, or anybody that comes behind me, you know, knows what breaker to kill. So all right, I'm going to keep moving along. I got to test the run capacitor on this thing. They put these things in an absolute stupid location, all the way in the back there. Horrible, horrible location. I don't know why Goodman and Amana decides to do that. It doesn't make any sense at all to me. But, you know, I'm no engineer, but that seems really stupid right there. Alrighty, well, I'm going to go ahead and get that capacitor tested and then start flushing drains, wiping everything down. Well, this is the kind of stuff that drives me crazy about Goodman equipment. You had to actually drop the blower out. The screw up there is bent off to the side where they didn't put the strap on. And I really couldn't get a screw on that either, so. And then also I put a mirror back there. I was able to get this brown off. I was going to try to test it in place, you know. But they put the capacitor rating on the inside of the blower, so you can't even read it. So you literally have to drop the blower out of there. Or if that wasn't crooked, I might have been able to get it. I just couldn't get my arm back in there real well. So 4 screws, two, and then I had to take that bar out that goes across here to just get to test the capacitor. That is just a pitiful design. I'm not trying to dog Goodman and Amana, but you guys, that's ridiculous just to test a capacitor. That's pretty stupid. I hate to sound like I'm an arrogant little prick. I'm not trying to be, but that is a really poor design. Most of them are just in the worst locations. I'm gonna go ahead and take this thing out of there now that I got it back out of here, and see what rating it is and go ahead and test it. Alright, sorry if I got a little frustrated about the positioning of this run capacitor here. It is awful. Awful. I went ahead and as you can see, I moved it. I moved it to the front. I don't normally change locations, but this one was so bad, and the way that strap was, it was dang near impossible to get off. So I went ahead and moved it up here, and then right here where these wires are at up top, I went ahead and wrapped some black tape around it, and then put some 50-pound rated UV zip ties there to make sure that the wires don't rub or anything like that. So this is a lot easier to get to, and then I went ahead and marked the door here that it's a blower run capacitor, 10 microfarad, 370 VAC. So that's what I did just to make this easier to service in the future. As I mentioned, I went ahead and checked that max overcurrent. This here is a 10 kW heat kit. So if you look at the second line here for 230 volt, the minimum circuit amps is 52 and the max overcurrent protection is 60, and we are on a 60, so that's perfectly fine. I went ahead and wiped down the air handler. I flushed the drain, took the condensate pump apart, vacuumed that out, poured water down through the pan as well as the cleaner first and then the water, so it's all flushed out and clean. I went ahead and wiped down the entire air handler as well as also on the sides there. Got all that condensation off up here all the way around. Got that white film that was on this off. So looks a lot better. I'm gonna go ahead and get the door on now, and I'll test the system on a test out. The clouds are moving in quickly. Looks like it's about to rain. Hopefully we have just a little more superheat now that we have a higher indoor ambient temperature. It's a little warmer outside now as well, so hopefully we'll get a little better superheat. We were only getting 1-2 degrees, calling for 5, so it's definitely a little scary. I explained to him again, hey, if you want to run this thing down, maybe it'd be a good idea to put a TXV on this thing to help maintain the superheat a little bit better on this machine. But we'll see what he says. You know, I doubt he'll spend that kind of money, but really wouldn't be a bad idea to help protect the system. The pump's all cleaned up, units cleaned up, electrical checks are done in here. I'm going to put these doors on and finally do a final wipe down of the unit and then do a test. Well, it broke loose on me, daggone, started thundering and lightning, and there it is right there. We got right on top of me. I was about 5 minutes into testing the system and it started raining, so I disconnected my probes. There's some thunder right there. Disconnected my probes and got my iPad out of the rain. I'm not ruining tools for maintenance, I can tell you that. Well, it started raining. It's not terrible right now, but definitely doing some thundering and lightning. Figured it'd be a little late in the year for that right now, but anyways, I'm blabbing. I'll keep talking about random stupid crap because I'm an idiot. But just want to say thanks for watching. I appreciate it. If you haven't already, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Thanks, buddy. And leave a comment on the video. Can't show everything in these maintenances. You know, this maintenance ended up taking me a total of 3.5 hours. So a little longer than what I would have liked. But, you know, it is what it is. I got to do a thorough job on them, and want to make sure people know that I've done something when I'm there, you know. So this one took me 3.5 hours in total on the job working time. That doesn't include transportation time to and from the job. 3.5 hours working, no breaks or anything like that, you know, for tune-up maintenance on a heat pump. So anyways, thanks again for watching, guys. You guys stay safe out there. Get home safe to your families. That's the most important thing you can do every day. Get home safe. You guys take care. Talk to you later.